Hi, welcome to Volume 3 of On the Topic of Poetry, where I had the pleasure to spend time with and interview Davyne Verstandig, a Connecticut poet, memoirist, retired professor from UConn, and a member of Monday Poets, which I've been associated with for over 10 years, though they've been together for 30 years. I had the opportunity to spend a weekend with them, as I've done for many years, and interview Davyne, and I give you this opportunity to spend time with her as well. Enjoy. Okay, we're live. So welcome, Davyne, to On the Topic of Poetry. And for our viewers, I'm normally in front of the camera with my guest. But we are here in Rhode Island, in Westerly, and I don't have my favorite videographer with me, which is my grandson, and he does a lot of my filming for me. So he's behind the camera typically, and I'm in front of the camera typically. So I'm going to get to talk to you from behind the camera today. And we've known each other 30 years, maybe?
I think so.
Yes.
Close. Yeah.
And so I'm here this weekend. It's just an honor to be here. I'm here as part of this group called the Monday Poets, which has been meeting
about 30
years, and does a spring, sometimes and often a fall writing retreat.
Yeah.
So it's all women poets. So you're a established poet. You've got a number of books out. You're a retired professor from UConn. You have lots of interesting history. You also teach memoir. So talk a little bit, for starters, about the Monday Poets, about your journey as a poet and a memoirist, and introduce us to you.
Well, we've been talking over the weekend about the origins of the Monday Poets. And I think Helen Glenn and Lynn Hoops, I think maybe they're both deceased at this point, but I think I became involved about 1994. It has evolved over the years. We met at Lynn's for many years. Some poets have come and left. Some people died. Some people chose to go out on their own. The quality of the poets is always exceptional.
Always exceptional. I'm so impressed.
Yes, as is the ability to articulate critique.
Very much.
Quite spot on. Though we never see the poem in front of us on these weekends. This is raw material, if you will. When we meet back inland once a month, we have a copy of that particular poet who goes first, her poem, which she reads aloud. Second, another poet reads it to her. And then thirdly, we turn the paper over and we read it ourselves and then critique. So that's the format. What else? I started writing when I was 10. And not so different than many poets who, when you ask, they began very early. Actually, I have a new book coming out called A Quiet Journey. And
I know you've got a number of other books. What number of book is this?
So this would be of mine. First there was Pieces of the Whole, then Provisions, which was 1988. This is now in the interim between 88 and 25. I've been in various anthologies. Probably the most unique in my estimation is it was published by Cambridge University Press, called The Sex and Sexuality in a Feminist World.
Interesting title.
And so years ago, one of the editors had come to some reading of mine. And interestingly enough, she contacted me sometime later and said, we have this scholarly tome of articles by various feminists in UK and here. And she said, I thought it would be interesting for you to submit some of your, what she referred to as my erotic poems. And I said, well, geez, I never really used that term. But, that's her perception. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I think there are 10 of my poems in this very dry tome, which sort of perk things up along the way. So, and then, one that Margaret Gibson edited about asking writers on the environment. And so, a number of different, Lisa Starr, who we know.
And was the poet laureate of Rhode Island for 5 years.
And she had an anthology at one point called, I think it was Ocean Beach or something. Mm-hmm. So there have been a number of small journals. But basically, I mentioned starting at 10, and I mentioned the new book because the first poem in there, though I can't recite it, is about my coming downstairs in my parents' home at 10 years old and declaring I was a poet.
Good for you.
And I read the poem, which I think I know by heart because it's one of, if the only, that rhymed. O heavy heart of sadness, free me from your chains. Leave me to wander in summer's quiet rains. Let me be lifted from all sorrows so I may grope for bright tomorrows. Let me go and find some love and no longer be an ugly thrush, but a pure and downy dove. Unchain me, but only let me find happiness. Please, I beg you, no more sadness.
That was at 10 years old.
Yes. So
brilliant.
My father said, what the hell do you have to be sad about? A very prominent doctor in New Haven.
Yes.
And my mother said, that was lovely, dear.
Nice.
So the poem in the new anthology, or the new book, goes on to say that my mother later, only once, she said, be careful of your poems. She said, your father burned all of mine.
Oh.
So that's how A Quiet Journey begins. And so, yes, I kept writing and obviously protected my poetry. I doubt that I shared anything with my father. Again, I might have, but I'm saying probably not. I'm 80, so 70 years. I learned, once was enough.
Yeah, to protect yourself and your voice.
Yes. So
even though I've known you for a long time, and I know that you're a voice of advocacy, you have a rebellious streak. You believe in justice.
Yes.
Yes.
So, yes, and there's political poems that I've written over the years. Like any poet, the world is open to us to witness. And so I'm not a nature poet necessarily. I'm not a political poet necessarily. I'm somewhere in the middle. Whatever it is that calls me to put my pen to paper. And
I would call you a poet of the heart.
Of the heart. Well, thank you. And as you know, my email probably says it all, which is my mind is in the ink.
Sort of your mantra.
That's my mantra. I trust the ink in the pen to take me where I need to go, whether it's an uncomfortable place or not. And I would just, I would support people not being afraid to let the ink take them where they need to go, difficult or not difficult, because you don't have to show the work
Exactly.
to anyone.
Right.
And in fact, if it frightens you, what comes out, you can always light a match to it. So I think that's important to, over the years, teaching creative writing at UConn and other places. I have a workshop coming up at Camp Washington in Morris at the end of the month, which is called Life Reexamined.
Is it full, or can people register?
No, people can still register, yes.
And
yes.
how would they find out about it?
Go to campwashington.org.
Okay.
Under programs. And so I've been doing them there at Camp Washington twice a year for a number of years. And preceding that, I was doing them at Wisdom House for a number of years.
And I've taken 2 of yours at Wisdom House.
Oh, okay.
My whole memoir started years ago. I wrote the very first piece for my memoir in one of your memoir
Really?
classes at.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes, at Wisdom House.
So I love teaching, even though I've retired. It's a way for me to still continue teaching. And, as I say, at 80, I've come to the point where using the term life re-examined is somehow digging a bit deeper than other memoir I have taught, which is really using reflection.
Storytelling.
We reflect on our life.
Mm-hmm.
But this is time to re-examine it.
Mm-hmm.
So...
I like that idea.
Pardon?
I like that idea.
Yes, and so people can use it for memoir, or they can use it for poetry or nonfiction. I mean, my much of the workshops over the years, as you know, are guided by prompts. And I try to create prompts that, if it's a 3-day workshop, begin in a particular way on Friday evening. And as the prompts progress over the weekend, there should be a transformation that takes place on Saturday night.
For the writer.
For the writer,
right.
Yeah. And generally my go-to is to ask writers, think about turning points in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we all have many. Pick 3. And the advice I give for a turning point is simply, it should be something that changes your behavior and is like an aha moment, a moment of transformation or transition. Uh-huh. So pick 3. And that seems to have helped a great number of people starting that way on their memoirs, or using what they find for fiction. Or I once had someone in a workshop who was a playwright, I remember, from New York, and every prompt she created in dialogue. So she could use those later for her play.
Nice.
So, people just go for it.
So I have 2 questions for you. One is, how do you support your own writing? And then I'm hoping you have a few poems to share with us.
Okay. I mean, they would be raw, hot off the press. How do I...
support your own writing?
Well, it's certainly not financially. It's just automatic for me. I'm not somebody that has a schedule. I don't write every day. I keep not a journal, but I call it a notebook, and lots of pieces of paper, index cards, things stuck in where an idea comes. And I have to recommend a book that came out a number of years ago. I think it's Emily Dickinson, and it's a very small book, and it has in it her little, maybe 2 lines written on the back of an envelope, or little fragments. And I just, saw that, and I'm sure you can find it somewhere. I found it engaging that this very famous...
And private.
In private, wrote on the back of an envelope, like many of us do.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I just write because when it dawns on me, of course, here, it's regimented. We have a poem Saturday morning at 10. We have one, we had one Friday at 10, Friday at 4. Today, we had one this morning. We'll have one tonight, and we have one more tomorrow morning, Sunday morning.
So let me just add to that. So this has been going for a long time, and I've been honored to be in a number of them over the years. Not as many as I would like to be because I have a full-time job, but the format for people who are interested is that it's poets, period.
Yes.
And when we come here for a weekend, the expectation is we write 5 new pieces in 3.5 days.
Right.
And no cheating. So.
Right. No, you can't bring anything with you that you've written before.
You can bring notes of things that you're considering.
Yep.
A little journal entry maybe of something that you have in mind. So the piece I did this morning on the war in Ukraine was something that I had some notes in a notebook about. Yeah. And I had to do a bunch of research to come up with all of the particulars that were in that poem, all of the statistics and, the impact to the kids and all of that. So then we arrive on Thursday. We have to write a poem by Friday morning, and then we get in a group together and we share and we critique, and then we write another poem for Friday afternoon. So 10 a.m., 4 p.m., 10 a.m., 4 p.m., 9 a.m. on Sunday, so we can leave by noon and go home. So when you leave, you have 5 pieces that are first drafts, essentially.
Exactly.
Though the quality, because I didn't make it last year, and so I'm reminded being here this weekend that the quality for first draft is like off the boards. Yeah. It's so impressive, the work that this group produces, and it helps that you all in particular that spend a lot more time together than I have the gift to do right now. You know each other's voices so well, and there's such a intimate conversation about the poems, which is just wonderful.
I think one of the great gifts of this group, and I'm also in another writing group that is across genres for about the same 30 years. The gift being in these groups is to be able to hear the growth of other poets' minds over the years, and to be heard myself by people who have seen that growth. That's highly unusual. And when people have said to me, well, there isn't a writing group around me, and I'll just say, go to the library, put an index card up, on a bulletin board, and just see if anybody responds. That's it. So I understand technologically people would put it on social, whatever.
Media. Mm-hmm.
But I would personally never looked there. So an index card on a bulletin board calls to me.
Got it.
Anyway, so you want me to read something?
I do.
Okay.
And I know that these are first drafts from this weekend, which you're very brave to be willing to do this for a larger audience.
Well, I'm sure I'll be forgiven for that. So this was the first one that I shared yesterday morning. The mask loosens. I feel I am revealing more these days when at 80 the line shortens. There is an end. I understood this at 23 when my mother died in the passenger seat, neck broken, having spread herself like the wings of an archangel over me as we turned over and over, coming finally to rest in a ravine of wild roses. I knew there was an end. All the years between 23 and 80, so filled with living, and filled with friends who died and pets who died, my father dead. There were deaths present, but they were other people's. Now the line getting shorter is mine. So I want you to know me, really know me, before I go. The mask continues to loosen.
And, so for people that are going to be watching this, that was just on this weekend. It's a first draft, and that's such an example of the high quality of work that gets produced here on a weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah. One more.
Okay.
And thank you for your time today.
And I guess the
lights
power
are going.
went out.
Yeah, the lights are going on and off while we're doing this.
Well, I haven't read this one, so it's called Inconveniences. People are talking to me, but the words blur and muffle. I'm unsure at what they are saying. I look for a translation in their facial expressions. Some days just trying to understand is difficult, exhausting. I long for a deep, long conversation. My right eye can blur too, like language unsure as I read. Is the word stone, or is the word stove, or is the word love? Comprehension can be misplaced. A troublesome knee that sometimes catches, a sore hip. I am well. No serious diseases, only these inconveniences of eye and ear, gratefully aging. I wonder at this body I was not attentive to. I risked and dared with it, took chances and escaped broken bones. Only 3 surgeries, 3 deliveries by C-section. Grateful for these inconveniences preparing me.
Got it. So is that one of the ones you'll share this weekend? Did you write it for this weekend?
I wrote it this weekend.
Yeah. And is it one of the ones we'll do in one of the...
I don't know. Depends. I actually am able to write more than 5. I don't know about you.
I've done it on occasion, but not often.
I probably have 10.
Nice.
I write fast. It's not about
nice
the quality or...
One last question for you. So I've seen you read many, 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 many times, and you're actually going to be reading at the gallery in September, which I'm very excited about.
Right. And two of the other Monday poets, Amanda McGrew and Cheryl Delapelle, and I are reading at the Hickory Stick
On
April 24th, a Thursday at 5 o'clock.
Okay, well, this will go live before that date.
Okay.
So then the one thing is that you are always so well paced. You often look up, you're engaged, not just with your words, but with the listener. So talk just quickly about that as a wrap up to our conversation.
I guess, I think it goes back to, in 7th, 8th, or 9th, those grades. The schools I went to had Shakespeare plays, and I always got a part. Okay. And then when I went to college, I took a course called Oral Interpretation of Literature. And the professor he became my mentor. And we learned how to read orally. Now, what he taught me beyond that, at this point, I couldn't tell you. But the fact that I majored in English and drama, the fact that I spent years working in summer theater, on stage, off, and directing community theater, I think it has something to do with my ability to know the pauses, even just right off.
Yeah.
I think what is difficult for some poets is they get nervous and they rush the line.
They rush, absolutely.
And there shouldn't, you should take your time and taste the words and the images in your own mouth.
That's perfect.
So.
Perfect. I remember when Leo Connellan was made the Poet Laureate, and I went to see him do one of his first readings, and I hadn't ever seen him before, but he was just made Poet Laureate. And I was so impressed with his delivery, and I asked him afterwards, I interviewed him for a newsletter I used to edit, and I asked him, where did you get that from? And interestingly, his wife had a theatrical background and really pressed upon him that he had to bring the performance aspect into the reading to make it engaging for the audience. Right. So you're pointing to something very, very similar.
Yes.
It's important to engage with the audience.
And just enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Just take your time. The audiences are much kinder than you anticipate.
That's good. Well, thank you for taking the time to speak with me on camera today.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.